Hello and welcome to the Monthly Mystical, another edition for you today. Today we're going to have a little chat with Carl Dinsdale. Once again, this is his third interview because there's lots and lots to say about modern mixed Masons. So we'll just get on. I was going to say without further ado, but I don't like saying that. Let's get on, shall we? I'll just find him. Hold on a ticky. Where are you? There we are. And in we go. And hello, Mr. Dinsdale, and how are we today? Well,
fine, thank you.
Welcome to the Monthly Mystical. I shall just put up the volume a little bit. That might be better. Right. Okay, let's get going. So today we're going to talk about all the different degrees and the prerequisites that are needed, or that you, as the modern mixed Masons, need to actually do these particular degrees. Correct?
Yeah, we can talk around them. Yeah.
Okie dokie. Right, let's get cracking then.
Well,
where do you want to start?
As always, to bear in mind, a lot of what I'm going to say is, when I say a few words about each of the degrees, that's my personal opinion on them, on the degree, you know, each to their own. The prerequisites, of course, are what the order sets down. However, our order is divided into about 15 inspectorates, and the Grand Inspector that looks after each of those has the leeway to sort of amend those prerequisites. So what applies in one doesn't necessarily apply in all of them, but more or less it does. But anyway, I mean, the first thing to say, of course, is you have to be in what people would call a blue lodge, a craft lodge, you know, entered apprentice, fellow craft and master mason, those degrees. And you have to be paid up to date, and you have to be a regular attender at your craft lodge to be considered to progress to any of the additional degrees. A lot of people will ask when they've read up on Freemasonry, you know, do we follow the York Rite, the Scottish Rite, European, English, whatever? Well, sort of, I suppose the closest we come to is an English version of these rites, where once you've been through your craft degrees, or some of them, as we'll find out, you can progress into some of the additional degrees. And which ones you go into, most of them are open to you. There isn't a natural order that we set out, or a strict order that is set out in some rites, but there are qualifications, and there are certain ones that will perhaps be of more interest to some people than others. So what people normally come across, the degree that people normally come across first is a mark degree, mark master mason. And this is an interesting difference with a lot of orders. We accept brethren, sisters going into that from the fellowcraft degree.
Okay.
It is a natural extension of the fellowcraft, in most people's opinion, and it better suits going in from being a fellowcraft. If you wish, you can wait till you're a master mason. You can wait forever, you know. But some orders insist you're a master mason. There's no reason for that, quite frankly, and it is a natural extension of the fellowcraft. But again, some Grand Inspectors prefer you to be a master mason before you do that, and there's many reasons. So it's neither right nor wrong, but you'll find in most of our places you can go in from the fellowcraft. It's a beautiful degree. It's known as a working degree because everybody gets their hands dirty. Everybody has a job to do. You're stuck in a quarry with lots of noise going on, lots of stones building and work going on. So it really does take you back to where perhaps Freemasonry started. And it really teaches you about perseverance, despite everybody telling you you're wrong and your work's not up to scratch. It's worth. The nice thing about the additional degrees, you tend to focus on certain values or ways of operating, virtues that help you be the best person you can be, and this teaches you to continue to persevere, and you'll get your reward eventually. So that is it's a very good degree to take after your craft degrees, because it's easy to follow.
Yeah.
Some of the other degrees are quite different, and and the time scale for taking it is completely up to individuals. It's completely up to them. But to mark degree, what quite often follows on from the mark degree is the Royal Art Mariner degree. In some orders, you have to be a Mark Master Mason before you can join the Royal Art Mariner. Well, that's utter nonsense, quite frankly. It's neither biblically correct, chronologically correct, or masonically correct. It stems probably from degrees being traded like commodities in the 1800s, and different orders getting pressy about who could join, and they had to be in their other degrees before they could join the Royal Art Mariner. Well, that, there is no need to be in the Royal Art Mariner in our order. You can take the Royal Art Mariner without being in the Master Masons. It's a beautiful degree. It is colourful. It has some of the best, I would say, ritual in it, some of the most beautiful wording in it, and it's a super degree. Not a long degree, but where the mark is actually 2 degrees compressed into one nowadays. The Royal Art Mariner is a single degree, and you're said to be elevated because you're taken higher than the floods in the time of Noah, and it's well worth being involved in that. It's a very beautiful degree. Perhaps some people before that will have taken the Holy Royal Arch degree, and that where you're said to be exalted. I would say to people, especially if you're into the esoteric side of Freemasonry, there is some fantastic ritual in the Holy Royal Arch where you can keep peeling away at it, and the layers show you fantastic thought processes and ways of looking at Freemasonry in a different light. It's quite different to the craft, very, very colourful. What you tend to find in the additional degrees is they're much more colourful. They're not quite as formal and as rigid as the craft. The craft sets like the foundations for your Freemasonry. As you start to explore the additional degrees, they become somewhat less rigid, but beautifully colourful. The Holy Royal Arch, and for historical reasons, some people call it the completion of the Master Mason's degree, and there's a long history about where it came from, probably, and why. It's quite well. To experience it, you would understand the exaltation ceremony is beautiful, and if you are a deep thinker, it is quite something and quite moving ceremony. And people quite often will join the craft, do the first, second, and third, and the Holy Royal Arch, and nothing else. They're quite happy after that, and that's quite understandable. I think they're missing out on a lot of things in Freemasonry, but it does sort of complete the craft story. I think if you're not in the Holy Royal Arch, you do miss out on completing the very basics of Freemasonry. But like I said, each to their own. You know, it's not a necessity, but I really do think if you're going to pick a couple of degrees that are not chivalric or Trinitarian, then the Mark and the Holy Royal Arch are the two. But there you go. Just some other ones that are generally organised by the Grand Lodge itself. You've got the Allied Masonic degrees, and that's a series of degrees that was pulled together. They had no overriding Grand Council looking after them, and so they were pulled together many years ago, and we've followed suit. They're enjoyable. There's 3 very short ceremonies and 2 long ones, but the 3 short ones are absolutely wonderful at punching home beautiful virtues, you know, about the true value of people, not being about what they're worth, but being about what they do and the soul and everything. So, you know, they're wonderful. The Order of the sorry.
Does the Allied, do they have different names as well, or is it just under that one umbrella of an Allied? Or
well, yeah, there's 5 degrees: Saint Lawrence of Martyr, you know, Knights of Constantinople, so on and so forth. But they're arranged under the Allied Masonic degrees, or there's various terms for that. And you would you would join it via the St. Lawrence degree, and then you can take any of the other 4 in any order, depending on which degrees the council was working that you're a member of. Although you can go up and down the country and go to other councils and take your other degrees in it there. Yeah. The Order of the Secret Monitor is, I think that actually contains something that all degrees in Freemasonry could learn from. They have what are known as visiting deacons, 4 of them. And it's their job between meetings to actually check up on a quarter of the membership. They're allocated between the 4 of them, they're allocated every member. And it's their job to give a report, particularly if that member isn't present at the meeting. And I think it's like having 4 almoners in a lodge. And I think that's a good thing. It's a good thing. And the degree itself is a beautiful story from the Bible of David and Jonathan. And again, different, very different. You know, for those that are in it, they would say that, but there you go. We work the Scarlet Code. And again, normally you would be expected to be in the Order of the Secret Monitor before you work that. We work the Old Operative degrees, and we work the Knight Masons. And again, there's some link between the Knight Masons in the Allied Masonic degree, and there's some carry over and link with the Ancient and Accepted Rite, the degrees 15 to 17. A lot of these things have been borne out over history through different orders, making them into separate degrees and separate rites, but they repeat themselves in different ways. And then you come to a whole set of degrees which you'd probably call the chivalric orders, the knightly orders, Knight Templar, which I'm sure most people are familiar with. You know, if a lot of people in Freemasonry, when they first come into Freemasonry, have heard something about the Knight Templar. And again, you know, without going into detail, that's the first of the chivalric degrees. And from there, you can take any of the others. Knight Malta, Knight Thomas of Acom, Knight Templar Priest, and Knight Beneficent of the Holy City. There's various workings of those. They all vary, you know, depending on where they take their ritual from. A lot of have a European influence, you know, and they vary from country to country, I'm sure. But they're the chivalric degrees. And again, in some orders, they'd insist on you being a Royal Archmason before you join the chivalric degrees. But we don't. We don't. I think it's worthwhile being in the Holy Royal Arch before you join the chivalric degrees, but it isn't a necessity. You know, so again, it's very much, you know, up to individual Grand Inspectors to agree what prerequisites they wish to carry, for good reason. Sometimes, if you haven't a lot of experienced chivalric officers, it makes it difficult if you have a large influx of new members, because it's no use just having them come through the installation ceremony and being made a knight. They need to have it explained. You know, there's phenomenal furniture within a preceptory or within a priory, and so on and so forth. And it all needs explaining over many years. So, you know, it is worthwhile just slowly getting to these degrees and orders so that it doesn't overwhelm you, but slowly but surely you can take it in. Because quite often, some will appeal to people more than others. But what I've found is those things that appealed change over time. So the degrees that you found absolutely fascinating 10 years ago may not be the same later on in life. Perhaps they change with what happens in your own life. I don't know. You know, there you go. Within the chivalric degrees, those are the 5 we work. The interesting one being the Knight Beneficent of the Holy City. That is one where you actually take an exam after each degree. So not everybody likes that, where they actually,
I was just thinking that sounds a bit
yeah, where they have to actually listen and learn. It's not a difficult exam, but it does mean that you have to have paid attention and you have to do a bit of thought process. It's not a quick order where you progress up the degrees with it in rapid succession. You know, if you progress up 1 degree a year, that's quick. It's not normally that quick. So of course that does hold some people back, because not everybody likes to sit down and actually write down the thoughts. So be it, but at least they know beforehand. You know. And then we have the ancient and accepted rite, which theoretically goes from the 4th degree to the 33rd. Although we don't work all of those, we work in full in some places, 15, 16, 17. In all places, we work the 18th degree, which is the rite of perfection, which many people will be familiar with, an outstanding ceremony. But you do need to have, certainly for the 18th degree onwards, the Trinitarian faith. And we also work in full, some places the 29th, and always in full the 30th, 31st, 32nd, and 33rd. Yeah, they are wonderful. In fact, some people would say that, you know, to over a long period of time to get through the ancient and accepted rite degrees is the pinnacle. You know, again, you pay your money, you take your choice. But it included as well, the Supreme Council that looks after them also looks after the Royal Order of Scotland. And if you like your tartan and you like your things done in a poetic way, and perhaps in a way going back to the original way of working stuff, the Royal Order of Scotland is a super degree, as is the whole, you know, the Order of Holy Wisdom. And again, there's various versions of that are worked in different orders, but ours tends to be more with a very heavy rosicrucian slant to it. You know, where you work you work the degree within a chapel, and that includes baptism and fire and etc. etc. And there's not many orders, I think, that actually work that one. But, you know, again, that's an unusual one and different, but very enjoyable. And then you sort of get to some that not everybody gets the opportunity to join, which is a great shame because they're simply fantastic. But if you are of the Trinitarian faith, you've got the Red Cross of Constantine, and that, for me, is my most enjoyable degree still in Freemasonry. They are beautiful. You start in a quite simple knightly degree, and then work what are known as the appendant orders, and they are just something to behold. And then the actual making of the second in command, if you like, Eusebius within the conclave, is a separate degree in its own right, as is the enthronement of the most puissant sovereign, the ruler of the conclave. So there's 5 degrees within that set, and they're all superb. They're all superb. Yeah. You Royal and Select Masters. Now that is fantastic. And if you were working things in the right order to make sense of Freemasonry, you would work the cryptic degrees, because they're all based in the crypt. You would work them after being made a Master Mason, and before joining the, all right, well, it's wonder you haven't seen my cat. And before you were exalted into the Holy Royal Arch, and it would make much more sense if you did it that way. That's a good way of doing it. But the Royal and Select Masters is wonderful, and indeed, in Nottingham, we use the ancient caves to work it, which adds to it.
That sounds fascinating.
But again, in some orders, the insist a Master Mason and a Royal Arch Mason, but we don't. You know, you just amend the ritual accordingly. You know, each to their own. You've the Order of Athelstan, which really does take you back, I think, to a simpler form of perhaps how Freemasonry was many hundreds of years ago, in whatever guise. Again, an enjoyable form of Freemasonry. And then we have some, without going into a lot of detail, we have the Masonic Order of Druids, which as a name implies, and that's brilliant to work outdoors in the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it'll next be worked actually in Sussex, outdoors, beautiful. And alongside that, the Fellowship of the Celtic Cross and the Order of St. Patrick, and there's so many degrees. You could spend a lifetime on a lot of them. And then interconnected with all that, of course, you have the Rosicrucian angle to everything. You know, the true order of the Rosy Cross, where you don't have to be a Freemason, but a lot of people are drawn to both Freemasonry and Rosicrucianism. You know, and you have many other orders, the Essenes, we have links to the Golden Dawn, we have links to, if you like, your European Freemasonry, the Memphis Mizram, wonderful ways of doing masonry in slightly different style and format. All those we have inputs into and connections, if that's what somebody wants. So there's a huge range of degrees and interests. You know, and I always say to people, you know, speak to your proposer and seconder, or somebody that you think a lot of in pre-Mason, and ask them the thoughts, which ones to go into if you wish, or when, and enjoy them, let them wash over you, and then help confer them on other people. You know, I don't know, that's a very quick run through, about 30 odd degrees.
I was just going to say, I didn't even realize there was that many.
Yeah.
That's fascinating, because, you know, if somebody was to say Freemasonry, they automatically think the three Masonic degrees, and that's it. And nobody actually, well, nobody on the outside, I assume, in my personal opinion, would know anything about all the other stuff. So it's because it's, you know,
you get quite a few that know snippets about the Knight Templars. They think, you know, everybody that's a Freemason, you know, is charging about with a huge
with a horse,
shield and sword and helmet on and whatever else. But
it's quite fascinating how many, and then also how different they all are. Different but connected.
Even within the chivalric degrees, you see, you have the Knights Templar. Knights Malta, I think, is a much more beautiful degree. It's worked in a chapel, and I think it's in a priory, and I think it's a much more beautiful degree than the Templar one, but each to their own. But then you have the Knight Templar priest, which is so holy and full of wonderful scripture. Anybody that enjoys scriptural readings and the like in their Freemasonry would love the Knight Templar priest. Then you have Knights Thomas of Aquin, again different again, and as we mentioned, Knight Beneficent of the Holy City, but a few are put off with that because you sort of have to just you have to be able to put down in writing the essence of what the previous degrees are, you know, before you progress to the next one. So, like I said, of all these degrees, you think, oh, there's a degree, and suddenly that opens up, and there's 5 in that one. Red Cross of Constantine, there's 5.
Yeah.
Allied Masonic degrees, there's 5. The Chivalric degrees, there's 5. And so on and so forth. It's there's many. I've never totted up how many in total there are, but you could make a lifetime study enjoying them.
Oh yeah, exactly. What does it mean to be a Trinitarian? What does that mean? What would you have to do to go on into doing the Trinitarian degrees, for instance?
Well, it means you believe in the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
So you don't have to do some sort of you don't have to become a priest or anything mad like that.
No.
It just means that you have to believe in.
It means that the religion that you hold as the supreme being, etc., must be of the Trinitarian variety.
Yeah.
So you even a Unitarian couldn't join some of those degrees because it would be meaningless.
Yeah.
Although some orders amend it, but so there is a ritual you could work that would be meaningful to somebody who wasn't Trinitarian. But ours, the main ones are, and therefore, you would have to be, Protestant, Catholic, so of that persuasion, Orthodox, to be able to appreciate those ceremonies and obviously the obligations you take and the whole nature of them.
Yeah.
And same with the chivalric.
Yeah.
As well. Yeah. Absolutely. So those 2 blocks, and that's why, to be fair, we have a structure where you have a Grand Lodge, but sitting under that Grand Lodge, you have the Supreme Council that looks after the ancient and accepted rite and some other degrees, and you have the Great Prior and the Grand Priory that looks after the chivalric, the knightly orders. Because not everybody can join, and therefore they have to be run slightly separately, but they all come under the main Grand Lodge umbrella, which isn't always the structure in other orders, but for historical reasons, really.
Yeah.
But obviously, when you start up new with all the history, you can perhaps set it up slightly different with the experience others have had. Anyway, it works for us. But that's why you will have somebody who runs the Supreme Council and somebody who runs all the chivalric degrees, but everybody reports into the Grand Lodge.
Cool. Yeah.
One way or the other. Yeah.
Excellent. So what? So if somebody was to Google some of the names that you mentioned today, would they find some information that would help them? Assuming that they're already Master Masons or whatever.
Yeah, I mean they would, but I mean, if anybody, we have 1 or 2 page explanations of virtually every degree. So if they went on to our, if they're members of our private Facebook site, they could go in the files section and they would get a 1 or 2 page document that would give you a brief outline of virtually every one of those degrees. So they're all there. And again, if you've got somebody who's not on Facebook and the like, if they ask me or the Grand Inspector, their Grand Inspector, they can be emailed those documents.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah,
And
and they're only a 2-pager on each degree. So if it's something they're interested on, it'll give them a brief overview, but it will also tell them if there are any prerequisites.
yeah, and somebody looking at this this video that is not a member of Modern Mixed Masons, I'm assuming that the website for Modern Mixed Masons would help them slightly on the how to start off their journey if they were interested.
Yeah, if they want some more information about local lodges to them, they can fill in that you know, the contact form, and Andrew and his team would be in touch with them. That obviously, if they've never been initiated, would be the
First step.
You know.
And
Yeah.
I'll add that website onto the comments underneath, just in case anybody would like to join.
Yeah, and that will give them their you know, as you say, a way into the order to start with before you get anywhere near the additional degrees. Get the foundations.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to start from the beginning, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. So yeah. Is I can't think of anything that we've missed at all there. That's just
there's a lot covered there. I mean, if anybody wants to catch up another time privately or whatever about discussing the degrees, that's fine. You know, each individual degree in detail, that's fine. I know when the pandemic kicked off 2 years and some ago, we did do some talks on each of the major degrees that really went underneath and into the esoteric side. They're available to do again. But as I said, that's just a brief overview. If people look at all the degrees that are open to them, it can be a bit daunting, and of course it would be. If you don't know what's behind each one of them.
Yeah.
You know, don't
sometimes from what you said, some of the names like all seem to meld in with each other, and you know, you just
Not only that, there's some of them, there's 3 different ways of working the ceremony. You know, that's just accidents of where, you know, they come from different countries and they got a different name and a different way of working it, but it is basically the same ceremony. So you can actually, there are some ceremonies in our order you can work 3 different ways, depending on which way you go about it. You know, so be it. You know, it's all hopefully leading to the same place. Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. Well, that was absolutely fascinating, and I've learned tons today, which is great. It's always good for me.
Confused myself. Never mind. Easily done.
It's fantastic. Thank you very much, Carl. And if anybody wants, like we said, if there's anybody wants some information, you can contact. If you're already a Mason, you want to know, then you can contact via the private Facebook group. And if you're not a Mason, then we're going to put the link below to the Modern Mixed Masons website, and they can use the contact form there and get in touch with their local Masonic order.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant.
All right, lovely. Thanks so much again. That was brilliant.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank
we'll
you.
see you very soon. I'll speak to you very soon.
Yeah, will do. Cheers, Jackie.
All right, thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye. Wow, that was amazing. So much more information than even I knew, and that was that's wow. Okay, so it's a lot to think about. And again, don't forget, if you've is this the first time you're having a look at the my channel, it would be lovely if you could subscribe and press the little bell thingy-madoofer. I think it might be that way. That's the little bell that notifies you of all the new interviews and also some of the live stuff that I'll be doing in the future. Yes, thank you so much for watching once again, and we'll see you next time on the Monthly Mystical. Have a fabulous, fabulous day. See ya.